shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. Too much love for the money, two for the show. Three to get ready now, go cat, go, but go. It's me, baby, knocking on your front door. It's me, baby, knocking on your front door. Well, I've been out all night.
Memphis, Tennessee. The time had come in the early 1950s when the musical melding that had been occurring between white and black music would finally take form and change popular culture forever. Acoustic blues performed by African-American field hands such as B.B. King crawled up the Mississippi to Memphis. Beale Street, the black cultural epicenter of the South, is where many of these bluesmen found themselves making a living. In turn, white sharecroppers from the surrounding countryside made their way to Memphis for better wages and a better life. They brought their own brand of gospel-influenced country music to the honky-tonks of the city. The longer the white country folks stayed in blues-soaked Memphis, the larger the R&B and boogie-woogie influence would be heard in their songs and recordings. These songs, artists in the small studio they were recorded in, would be the stage for the beginning of rock and roll. One of these artists was Malcolm Yelvington. Born just outside of Memphis in the Covington, Tennessee area on September 14, 1918, Malcolm was the youngest of 8 children. Malcolm and his family would gather around the radio and listen to singing cowboys like Slim Reinhardt or the swinging big band sounds of Glenn Miller and his orchestra. Malcolm started to take more of an interest in music after his older brother taught him a few chords on the guitar. In the early 1940s, after getting married and becoming a father, Malcolm began performing shows at a Covington theater between movies, eventually forming a group called the Tennesseans with his future right-hand man, Reese Fleming. The Tennesseans merged with another local Covington band, the Star Rhythm Boys. The new version of the Star Rhythm Boys, with Malcolm on lead vocals, played extensively in local honky-tonks like the Cotton Club in the early 1950s. Hearing about a new recording company in Memphis from another local band, the Ripley Cotton Choppers, Malcolm and his Star Rhythm Boys headed down to 706 Union Avenue to meet the owner.
First time I walked in the Sun Studio, that would have been about December of 1953. I walked in, I met Marion Keisker, and I asked her about who run the place. I'd like to see the owner, and she said he's back in the back. Going back and talk to him. I went back and introduced myself to him. I asked him, did he know what he was looking for? And he said, no, I won't know until I hear it. I said, well, in that case, then, Mr. Phillips, you're going to have to just about listen to everybody comes through the front door. He said, I intend to. Anyway, he set up a date. We brought our band in one Sunday morning about 8 o'clock, and we stayed in the studio 8 solid hours. Finally, on one session, we had gone through everything that we had. Sam says, you got anything else? I said, no, that looks like about it, Sam. And all of a sudden, I said, whoa, wait a minute. I turned around to Gordon, who was my lead guitar player, Gordon Mashburn. I told him, I said, Gordon, kick off Drinking Wine Spodiote. He kicked it off. The band started playing. I started singing. Sam stuck his head out of the control room door and said, hold it, hold it, hold it. He said, let's cut it. And he released in November of 1954, Drinking Wine Spodiote.
After Drinking Wine Spodiote failed to become the hit Malcolm had hoped it would be, Malcolm took his band to another independent Memphis label, Meteor Records, under the name of Max Sales to record the novelty song Yakety Yak, which Sam Phillips had refused to release. The Meteor single did little better than Malcolm's first Sun record. Still on contract with Sun, Malcolm diligently went back to 706 Union in 1956 to record his final and strongest single for the label, Rockin' With My Baby, with the swinging flip side, It's Me, Baby. Malcolm became lost in the big money rock and roll shuffle. He was more than 15 years older than Sun's biggest stars, and Phillips put little effort behind Malcolm's releases. Disappointed with the music business, Malcolm went back to his day job full-time to support his growing family. In January of 1961, Malcolm quit playing music professionally after dedicating his life to Christ, leaving the honky-tonk lifestyle behind him.
That's when the drinking stopped. That's when the blackguarding, the cussing, and all of that kind of stuff, which I used to be real bad at. That's when all that stuff stopped, and it's been stopped ever since. I joined the church in 1961. I accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I still belong to the same church I joined in January 1961. My wife and I, we've been married 58 years last January the 14th. She loves me and I love her. We have 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. We have 11 grandchildren, and we have 2 great-grandchildren. And it's a pretty good-sized family if you try to get them all in this small house of mine.
While rockabilly music had lost much of its popularity in the United States, a dedicated and almost fanatical following of the music continued to flourish in Europe. One of Malcolm's European fans, Dave Travis, traveled to Memphis and convinced the aging singer to come out of retirement for a tour of England.
Mr. Malcolm Yelvington!
He asked me would I like to go to Europe and do some shows. I told him, I said, yeah, I'd like to go, Dave, but I said, man, I haven't been on stage for over 30 years. I don't even know half my songs. I'll have to learn my songs all over again. And I left here on the 21st of March, 1988, flew to London. First time I'd ever been on a plane in my life, and I was scared to death. It turned out to be one of the best places that I played, really. Biggest crowd and everything, and I had a ball out of it.
After touring Europe twice in the late 80s, Malcolm was approached by Gary Hardy, a young Memphis entrepreneur who had just bought and reopened Sun Studios.
He got in touch with me when we come down and talk to him. I did. And he said, I'd like to record something on you. I said, would you be interested?
As usual, Malcolm said yes. He wanted to realize his dream of having a full-length album issued in the United States during his lifetime. In the middle of the making of the record, Gary Hardy sold the studio and the project was put on indefinite hold. Malcolm continued to go down to the studio for the next 8 years, recording new songs with Sun studio engineer and guitar player James Lott. The album was finally finished and released in 1997 with the deserving title of There's a Little Life Left in This Old Boy Yet.
So they started working on my stuff again, and we got it finished. And I think it's a good album. It's got some rockabilly on it. It's got a little country on it. It's got a little pop stuff on it and a little bit of western swing, what have you. I just feel kind of lucky, to hang around this long, and especially to still be in music. Music is outside of my family, is my life. That's how I'd like to be remembered, as a guy that actually turned his life around. And that's the way I'd like to be remembered. I'd like to be remembered as a Christian man who sang rockabilly music. Down by the riverside. Everybody sings that. I'm gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Down by the riverside, I'm gonna lay down my burden. Down by the riverside to study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Oh, war no more.